Hi there. This is a video about translations. Now remember that translations, the word that we use for this is the word slide. Okay, now let's look at a quick example of what I mean by that. Now this is my friend Jim, okay, and what I want to do is I'm going to take this picture of Jim and I'm going to translate it and just move it over here. And by what I mean is I'm going to take this picture of Jim and move it over. Okay, and I want you to notice a couple things. I'm going to move it up over here. Okay, is that what we talked about was we're in the last section was looking at the corresponding parts of Jim. All right, so I'm going to take his left eye here, and I'm going to mark that corresponding point here. I'm going to take his right nostril here and locate that other point here. And then I'm going to take the middle of his mouth and label that here. Okay. Now, what I want to do is first name this. Okay. This is my pre-image. Okay. Also my OG, my original image, and this is my image. Okay. This is the result of my translation. Okay. Now, I'm going to call these points over here points A, points B, and then C. And then my other points, my corresponding points over here would be A prime, B prime, and then C prime. Okay. And that's what I got. Now what I want to do is connect each of these points with a line. Now if I connect points A to A prime with a line, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take this line and duplicate it twice and show you what I can do with that. Because if I take that line and I duplicate it and I move this over, then that line is, all these lines are the same length from each other, okay? And so one thing that I've realized about a translation is that I take one image and I move all those points over in the same direction from one another, okay? So the distance from, say, A to A prime, all right, that distance is going to be congruent to B to B prime, and that's going to be congruent from C to C prime, all right? So the lines that connect all these are going to be the same. Now, if I wanted to draw one, say points from his ear to his ear, and we'll call that point D, and we'll call this point D prime, then the cool thing is that I could duplicate this line again here and move that over, and that's going to be the same distance as well. Okay, so just something to think about as we move and do translations, that I just picked his picture and I just moved it over, and then I drew a line that connected A to A prime, and then I took that line, duplicated it, and it fit from B to B prime, C to C prime, and then D to D prime. All right, so let's look at a couple other examples. Okay, and so if I look at this example here, and what I want to do, I'm just analyzing this translation, okay? And what we do is we start with our figure QRST, and we translate this figure over to get Q prime, R prime, S prime, T prime. Now what I want to do is actually look and see what happens to these points. Now I can tell that this is a translation because of the orientation. Notice how point Q is in the top left. Notice how Q prime is in the top left, all right? Notice how point T is in the bottom left and T prime is in the bottom left of this figure, all right? So all the points from here correspond with the other points, and you can just show that it just goes, each point is just translated over in this direction, okay? So let's actually write out each of these points. So point Q is the point -1, 4. R is the point 2, 4. S is the point 2, 1. And T is the point -1, 1. All right. Now what I want to do is analyze and say, all right, well, what happens once I get my new point here, Q prime, R prime, S prime, and T prime, what's happening? Okay, so let's identify what Q prime is. And so from here, this is the point 1, 5. All right. R prime is the point 4, 5. S prime is the point 4, 2. and then t prime is the point 1, 2. All right. So the question is what am I doing from going from my original xy value to my new y value? All right. And so what I want to do is ask this question. All right. To go from -1 to 1, what am I doing? To go from 2 to 4, what am I doing? To go from 2 to 4, what am I doing? -1 to 1. All right. And what I'm doing is I'm taking my x value, okay, and I'm adding 2 to that x value to get my new value. Now, to go from 4 to 5, I'm adding 1. 4 to 5, I add 1. 1 to 2, I add 1. 1 to 2, I add 1. So then my y value then becomes y plus 1. All right. So what I can do is I can actually come over here and I can write a rule for this. All right. Now, my rule is that I do t for translation, okay, and then I do this. I do 2, 1. And what that means is that I take my x, y values and I then add, and let's just put this, that you get this. All right. So that's my rule. All right. That you go from one point to the next by adding 2 to my x value and 1 to my y value. Now, one thing that you can do here is actually just physically look at this translation, all right? And if I go from one point to the next and say, all right, if I go to q prime, I'm going over 2 up 1. If I'm going from r to r prime, I'm going over 2 up 1. If I'm going from t to t prime, I'm going to go over 2 up 1, and the same thing here, s to s prime over 2 and up 1, okay? And they're all shared by that same common diagonal line, okay? And you can draw that in too, but remember, you need a horizontal movement and a vertical movement to go from one point to the next. And that's how we use our rule, all right? So let's take a look at a problem where we use the rule to generate this. All right, so what I want to do is actually just use the rule to draw a translation. So let's say I'm given the rule t, and let's do -5, 4, okay? And what this means, my rule is just going to say that on my point x, y. And remember what this means. This means to take your x value and subtract 5, and your y value and add 4, okay? Now, the other thing that I can look at is that this number here is my horizontal shift, and this number here is my vertical shift, okay? And so what you can do is actually just write out that you're going to move this 5 units left because we're negative, and 4 units up because we're positive. All right, so the signs tell us to go, if it's negative, we go left. If it's positive, we go right. If it's, if the y value is negative, we go down. Positive means we go up, okay? So we can just do that over here, all right? I can take each of these points and simply just move them 5 units to the left, 4 units up. So I can go over here and I can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up 1, 2, 3, 4, and I can then come here and plot my new point J prime. Okay, I could do the same thing for point L. I can move this over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can move this up 1, 2, 3, 4 to this point, and that's going to be point L prime. Now I can do the same thing for point K. Move this point over, let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up 4 units and go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the whole point of this is that I'm going to have the same figure once I translate it, okay? And the shape isn't going to change size, it's just simply shifted over. Now, again, you can come over here and you can connect each point from itself with a line, and all these lines should be the same length, okay? Now, let's look at, using the rule to do this, all right? So it just, all this rule did was just tell me where those points were, okay? But let's actually list out the points for J, K, and L. So J, K, and L. The point J is the point 2, 1. K is the point 6, 0. Okay, and L is the point 2, negative 1. All right. So what I want to do is actually just use my rule up here to generate those points. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write this out. I'm going to write J prime, and then I'm going to say my X value was 2. Now to get my new X value, what I want to do is subtract 5 from that. All right. And then the next thing I want to do is take my Y value, which is 1, and add 4 to that. All right. And that's going to give me my new point. All right, let's do that for all of them. So K prime over here, we're going to do 6, and then minus 5, comma, 0 plus 4. And then for the other ones, let's write out L prime, and that's going to be 2 minus 5, comma, negative 1, and then plus 4, okay? And all I need to do now is just do the math over here, and that's going to give me my new point, all right? So then the point J prime is going to be 2 minus 5, which is negative 3, and then 1 plus 4 is 5. All right, K prime is going to give 6 minus 5, which is 1, and then 0 plus 4 is 4. And then L prime is 2 minus 5, which is negative 3, and then negative 1 plus 4 gives us positive 3. Now, what you want to do is make sure, all right, are these points here that we wrote, is that the point for all this? So, you know, negative 3, 5, go over 3, up 5, that's where J prime is. K prime is 1, 4, so go over 1, up 4, that's where K prime is. L prime is negative 3, 3, and that's where that is, okay? So that's what we do, all right? So hopefully this makes sense. Let me know if it doesn't, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot. Bye!